Alright, so I'm back with a Platinum to Diamond guide a long time after making my original Gold to Platinum video. So, yeah. I'm sorry for the wait, please don't kill me. Anyways, to everyone watching this video, hello and thank you for watching. In the Gold to Platinum guide I had posted around half a year ago, I had posted in the comments section of that video that I was going to do a follow-up guide with another guide explaining what to do once you had reached Platinum, a guide on how to get to Diamond. At the peak of making the Gold to Platinum guide, I was pretty sucky with my peak only having been 1800s. But my skills have improved at the game and I think I would be eligible enough to make this video you're watching right now. This video took some time to come out, not only because of editing and recording, but in all honesty, I was procrastinating making this video for a while because I was spending way too much time playing certain video games. However, I still have been playing Brawl and I was able to get to Diamond for the season. I dropped my ELO a bit back down to 1900s so I can get some good matches against other players to provide some examples on how to play against higher ranking players, because the stuff I say is always better if there are references to back it up. Throughout my constant struggles and countless hours put in of trying to get to Diamond each season, I've learned that there are a ton of types of Platinum players and a lot of strategies that can be implied. So with that being said, there's going to be some differences in this video as compared with the Gold to Platinum guide. With Gold players, they all usually share a common weakness, something that was easy to capitalize upon. Platinum players are a lot better than Gold players, trust me. There's so many types of players you gotta learn to counter, and it's not going to be an easy feat at all. It's gonna take some time, but I want to help speed that up. So let's get into it. So here you have it, the Platinum Division. The final step before Diamond, and by far the longest one to take. I usually take a transition from each video to the next when it comes to guides like these, and I had originally stated in my guide to Yumiko that Platinum players are some of the peak players in the game, and I still stand with what I say. Platinum players put in work. In fact, they're probably better than Diamonds at times because they have something to strive for, and because of that, they're going to try their hardest to get their ELO. Before I had reached Diamond, in around May of 2019, I was seriously struggling in High Platinum, and admittedly getting very frustrated at the resistance I was encountering. It had seemed like every time I was getting somewhere, I would just get pushed back down. And the main reason for this is because each Platinum has their own playstyle. Sure, they may follow the basic fundamentals and stuff, but every player has been playing long enough to realize that one of several playstyles that are followed in Platinum is the meta or most effective way to play. And part of the reason I was able to get higher ELO was not because I was even being better, but because I was being more knowledgeable. Because in all honesty, I've beaten people who are straight up better than me because I knew more. I knew how they were going to react, I knew what move they were going to throw out, and I know what attack was optimal for me to throw out in my position. And that just goes to show that Brawlhalla is not always a skill game, but a mental game as well sometimes. The first tip I'm going to throw out right here is already a continuation of the mental game I was talking about with Brawlhalla. If you want to climb into the higher ranks, you're going to need to read the positions you're going to be in. When you throw out an attack, you don't want to throw out an attack to try and hit where your opponent is at the very moment, but you want to throw out an attack based on where your opponent is going to be in the next couple of milliseconds. Take this position I'm in, for example. Right now, I cannot hit where the Bodvar is with any of my moves really. The hitboxes don't cover it. But what I do know is that the Bodvar will want to jump up, and that if I were to throw out a sidelight, I would cover the area above him and he wouldn't be able to, so if he jumps up, he would take damage. And look what happens. A key example of this is when I do bow downlight on the ground. when my opponent runs out of jumping or dodging options. I do this because even though my opponent is not there at the very moment, I know he is going to be in the next couple of moments, so I position myself in advance so that my attack can hit right where he lands. Another example of this is dash jumping and throwing out neutral airs. A lot of times I actually throw them out where my opponent will not land, because the point of this is many players like to jump to avoid the threat of a potential attack. So I often like to pick up on this and try and call out their movement, throwing out an attack where I think my opponent is going to be, not where he actually is at the moment. However, this isn't just to land hits as well. This can be used to avoid damage as well. If you happen to be on low health, you can use the prediction of where your opponent is going to move, combined with the knowledge of all the hitboxes on the weapon being used, to position yourself to where you shall be unhittable. If your opponent is a Scythe main, position yourself directly above him, because that's where Scythe has an area of weakness. All weapons have an area of weakness because of the hitboxes on their attacks. To make it easier, I shall show it right here. The second thing that I want to mention here is that memorizing the flow of the battle is really important. The flow of the battle is something that's always been there, not just in Brawlhalla, but in all fighting games like Tekken, Street Fighter, and like-minded fighting games. What the flow of a game is the pattern in which an opponent will throw out attacks as compared to when you throw yours out once those attacks miss. In low-level games, there is no flow. It's just a bunch of characters throwing out moves in hopes that they'll hit each other. The defense aspect of their play is minimal to non-existent. However, Platinum is not low-level. Other players will start to play the flow of the game just like you do subconsciously, but I'm here to expose what the flow is, so you can improve on it faster than they can. So how do you win the flow of the battle? Well, in the flow of the battle, there are offensive windows and defensive windows. Offensive windows are the parts of the game where you know for a fact that you can throw out moves without getting punished for it, because you know that your opponent has missed a move, or because you know if your opponent tries to attack, he'll just end up getting hit with more stuff. Examples of the offensive windows of the flow will include putting your opponent in a string. If you perform a successful dodge read, your offensive window continues because you get to perform repeated attacks in succession to your opponent without fear of retaliation, because you simply can't perform an attack. However, if you fail the dodge read, you'll immediately go into defensive window, where the opponent will often try to attack where your character is right now. One of the things that will help most is consciously knowing when you have an offensive window or when you have a defensive window. Example given. Edge guarding. Say your opponent has used all his moves. He used his recovery, his 2 jumps, and he's about to spend his final dodge getting back to the edge. Well, what position are you in right now? Exactly. Offensive window all day, ground pound him, and take your stock. Or another example, when you're on red health on 3 stocks and your opponent is on his fresh 2nd stock. You want to initiate a defensive window the entire time so that you can make your opponent with moves, causing offensive windows for you to inflict damage. That's basically just thickening the lead for you. But what about something like reverse gimbing? See, now that's an example of turning a defensive window into an offensive window. Take the previous example. You had used all your movement options getting back to the wall, but what if you dodge through the ground pound your opponent throws out? Then he's below you, and he's the one who has something to gain from this situation. and you want to stop him from achieving his goal. So you try to dive kick, and whether you pull off the gift or not, you'll have reversed the offensive and defensive windows and put the advantage in your favor. The way to win the flow of the battle is to turn as much defensive windows as you can into offensive windows. Example given. Say your opponent is a lanceman, and he's about to stare you with lance. Recognize it, spot dodge it, and once he's phased through you, attack where he will be in the next couple of seconds. Notice how this interleads with the first tip I've given? Using these two tips in tandem with memory of hitboxes, you'll have switched a defensive window into an offensive window and gotten yourself some damage in the process. Sometimes, securing the kill in Platinum divisions can be annoying. Once your opponent gets to red health, they start becoming annoyingly passive out of fear of losing their stock, so you need to start thinking of creative ways to kill them. A lot of times, ordinary signatures won't work, so I'm going to use the ways that tend to work the most for me. Now, the number one way that I've found to be the most effective to kill Platinums: one-tricks. You remember that one Teros in Gold 5 that would spam SIGs in the most unorthodox ways and keep getting your health low? That doesn't mean you can't do the same thing. I'd just recommend doing it very sporadically so that your opponent doesn't really know when it's going to happen. The reason why one-tricks work so well is because many Platinums only try to memorize the conventional hitboxes of the weapon's quick attacks. It's rare for them to factor in signatures unless you start spamming them, because there are so many signatures across all legends in Brawlhalla. Sig spam can be useful even in Platinum, you know. You just gotta know when to input it. But that's just a quick tip because I want to cover a much bigger subject that this was just a small part of. Another way to secure the kill is jump root attacks. This can be as simple as a neutral signature or a side or neutral air. This is just an extension of the first tip I provided of predicting where your opponent will be. Another simple way to secure the kill is simply reading an attack your opponent is going to throw out, spot dodging it, then countering it with a true kill combo, such as downlight stare. Sometimes, in classic scenarios, it's possible to predict when your opponent is going to land a grounded aerial attack on you. Lands. And it's possible to dodge the active frames when the attack comes out. And many times the opponent will then not expect the attack to miss and move himself right in front of you, leaving himself very open to a counterattack. Once again, turning a defensive window into an offensive window. It's also possible to bait out a stupid move from an opponent, whether they're in the grounded neutral or trying to edgeguard you. For example, a thoughtless dash jump ground pound from your opponent while you're on the edge can be punished by you with a down air. Assuming you're able to move to the side, of course. Same with a thoughtless signature on their part that can be very easily punished with a signature of your own or a true combo that kills on your weapon. Which brings me to another thing I want to bring up. As a general rule of thumb, it's very unsafe and stupid to do a normal ground pound off stage if your opponent is on the wall. Unless your opponent has used all his recovery options getting to the wall, or you're absolutely certain that it will hit, don't use it. Despite what you think, ground pound has a lot of recovery frames regardless of the weapon, and I would not risk traveling that far below because I've gimped countless people trying to ground pound me. A proper opponent, like many Platinums are, will learn to recognize patterns and punish accordingly. If you do happen to land a side air or side signature when your opponent is on low health that doesn't quite kill, want to catch him off guard with a weapon throw. Don't immediately throw your weapon because Hail Marys like those don't often hit and are easy to predict. Something that works is often acting like you're going to try and edgeguard with your weapon, then dash jump down throwing when he gets close. Especially if you have a bigger weapon like spear or lance because it'll have a much bigger chance to hit. But that's about it for kill options. With this, you should climb from low platinum to mid and high platinum. Honestly, the grind in high platinum is super hard to the point where I still struggle there as a diamond myself. With this season still in the early to middle stage, I'm constantly dipping between 1900s and low 2000 because high platinums are just that good. They know what window reversals are, so they're not going to approach using stupid stuff. What they're going to try to do is to force your attack window out with zone control. This is a combination of using the hitboxes on their moves to force you into a cramped space where you need to attack, because if you try to move out, they'll just throw out an available move that they have in their kit that's guaranteed to land. And honestly, you want to know how to counter this? Have better movement. And there's no other way around it, you just need to straight up outmaneuver your opponents. And that's something you're only going to get with a lot of time put into the game. You can't be a miracle god at this game, even if you've previously had experience in other games. I've been playing fighting games almost my whole life and I still have a ton to learn. I may not be an absolute top player steamrolling through almost all the ranks, but I can hold my own in high ranks enough to get to diamond consistently. Another thing that surprised me is that when I was fighting platinums and progressing through the ranks, I found people getting a lot faster with their movements and their attacks as well. Example given, a lot of golds had faster reaction times than silvers, and had more knowledge of the game in general, and I had expected this trend to carry all the way until diamond, but some of the platinum players I've run across are the slowest I've ever seen, and ironically, they're also the ones I have the most trouble against. Most platinums will know exactly what I'm talking about too. The Teroses that never approach you, just dodge a ton and wait for you to attack so they can spam window reversals. Yeah, those guys are super annoying. They give the offensive window to you all the time, but it's so hard to capitalize upon it. The one thing I found that works against these guys is to be super unexpected with your window reversals. Spam your one tricks, spam weapon throws, spam things that are super fast or that they'll never see coming, because anything that's not very expected will hit them all the time. Now that I've covered some good things to do in Platinum, let's cover some things you don't want to do in Platinum. Don't go for a combo that's not true, unless you're doing it in the beginning of the game. The first time you land a guaranteed attack window, go for the full combo to see the way your opponent dodges, then follow up with the attack that covers that dodge read. If you keep going for the same dodgeable combo, he's going to keep dodging the same way and punishing appropriately when you're in your recovery frames. Don't play off stage when you have the lead, especially when they have a gimp heavy weapon such as hammer, axe, or gauntlets. Their wall jump refresh will run out, and eventually they'll just have to come up and contest you. Don't take all the offensive windows that are provided to you as a chance to attack mindlessly. Sometimes it's a bait. If you know your hitboxes and consciously know that a move you throw out isn't going to land and get reversed on you, don't throw out a miracle attack thinking it'll put on damage, because it isn't. And don't expect to win, because that's just gonna end up in disappointment. The way you got to Platinum isn't by winning. If you won all the time, you'd think your strategy of fighting is perfect and you wouldn't ever change it. The reason you're a high rank right now is because you lost a bunch of games and were forced to adapt and better your playstyle so that it can counter more. There are level 100 characters that are still in Platinum, so the journey will be anything from short. But sooner or later it's guaranteed as long as you're willing to put the work in. And that's it. At this point, once you combine the general guide regarding Platinum, combined with my knowledge of Yumiko that I've put into this guide and master it all, you're there. You're at my 2100 diamond level and at the end game. The only people left to stop you are top ranked players. So good luck to all that watched this video, and thank you for watching.